Hey guys, hope you're well. My name is Rob. Welcome to Kinetic Rugby League. In this video, I'll be giving you my NRL Round 27 predictions. I'll leave a recap of last week up on the screen for you now, and as you can see, another 5 out of 8 week. That is 4 rounds in a row I've had 5 out of 8, which I am happy with. It's above half. It gets the average up on the season, so we're still getting there. That's 114 out of 196 for a percentage of 58.16%. Can we get to 60%? We will see. But it's been a while since I've had an 8 out of 8 week. So hopefully, final round of the regular season, we can make it happen. Let's get started. Kicking off round 27, we have the Broncos taking on the Storm. Starting with the team list of the Broncos. In the backs, they have Tristan Saylor, Corey Oates, Selwyn Cobbo, Dane Mariner, Jesse Arthurs, Josh Rogers, and Adam Reynolds. In the forwards is Corey Jensen, Billy Walters, Fletcher Baker, Jaden Hunt, Jordan Rickey, and Patrick Carrigan. On the bench is Blake Moser, Kobe Hetherington, Benjamin Tikora, and Martin Tapu. On the side of the Storm, in the backs they have Sua Farlogo, Will Warbrick, Jack Howarth, Nick Meaney, Grant Anderson, Cameron Munster and Jerome Hughes. In the forwards is Nelson Asfa-Solomona, Harry Grant, Josh King, Sean Bloor, Eliasa Katoa and Trent Liero. On the bench is Tyron Wishart, Christian Welch, Tui Kamikamica and Alec McDonald. For me, this one is pretty simple. The Broncos were demolished last week and they've been pretty poor for some time now. The Melbourne Storm, they continue to impress. I thought they might lose 13 plus. I knew they had some quality individuals still in that team available last week, but to have rested 10 or 11 players, something like that, and then come out with such a strong, gritty performance against the Cowboys was really impressive. And for me, the fact that the Broncos can no longer make the top 8 is one reason why they just won't show up to this one. And the Melbourne Storm, not only are they, first of all, extremely professional, a lot of that comes from Bellamy. So he's not going to allow the team to slack off. Plus the individuals they've got available in this team. I think Sua Farlogo at fullback is going to have a field day. Cameron Munster and Hughes at 6 and 7. They should have a lot of fun in this game, controlling the game with the run game. Defensively, the Broncos are just off it right now as well. Harry Grant through the middle should probably demolish the Broncos as well. So, and even Tyron Wishart, I don't want to forget him because I think he's been possibly top 3 most important on this Melbourne Storm team this season. Wishart has been incredible. And he just seems to keep popping up left, right and centre, supporting, creating, tries, assists. Like, he's just so involved. And he's such a great impact player when he comes on. Or he just sets a tone immediately when he starts. So for me, I can't look past Hughes, how good he is. Farlogo with the excitement around him at the moment. And Wishart with his impact, whether he starts or comes on. Melbourne Storm are just a significantly better team. So I'm going to go with the Storm to win, 13 plus. Next up, we have the Tigers taking on the Eels, starting with the team list of the Tigers. In the backs, they have Heath Mason, Junior Tupou, Solomon Afar-Tape, Josh Felady, Charlie Staines, Lachlan Galvin, and Aidan Caesar. In the forwards is Stefano Utokumanu, Api Coruscant, David Clemmer, Alex Seyfarth, Samuel Afenu, and Isaiah Papali'i. On the bench is Latu Fainu, Sione Fainu, Fanua Pole, and Alex Twal. On the side of the Eels, in the backs they have Clint Gutherson, Mike Acevo, Will Penasini, Blaise Talangi, Sean Russell, Dylan Brown and Dejan Assi. In the forwards is Regan Campbell-Gillard, Brendan Hans, Sean Lane, Kelma Tuolangi, Bryce Cartwright and Joe Fangawi. On the bench is Joey Lussick, Makesi Makatoa, Luca Moretti and Ofahiki Ogden. So now we move on to the most glorious game in all of Rugby League history. Forget State of Origin, forget the Grand Finals in Super League and the NRL. This right here, the Battle of the Wooden Spoon, is what we're all wanting to see. For me, it is simple enough, just based on the player availability with Gutherson, with Brown, Penasini, Talangi, Sevo. I think the back line is automatically better than the Tigers. I think Galvin and Caesar, I think they could do a semi-decent job in the halves, and there's only so much Api Coruscant can do at 9 through the middle. Stefano Utokumanu maybe can set a good platform for them to work from. We'll see. But I just think, even without Mitchell Moses this season, the Eels actually, based on the eye test and on performances, I think they've actually looked a lot better than the Tigers this season. I think results-wise, obviously, hasn't really worked out that way. But I do think the Eels are a stronger team. They've got the stronger team available this week. And I think they'll start out well. I think they'll look pretty commanding, not just to basically repeat what happened last week, but they'll look commanding. The Tigers normally do finish out games well, especially when they're backed into a corner and they're under pressure. I think they'll start to close that gap a little bit, look respectable, but I think the Eels will always pretty much maintain control. So I'm going to go with the Eels to win 1 to 12 points. Next up, we have the Rabbitohs taking on the Roosters, starting with the team list of the Rabbitohs. In the backs, they have Jai Gray, Tyrone Munro, Tane Milne, Richard Kennett, Jacob Gagai, Cody Walker, and Dean Hawkins. In the forwards is Thomas Burgess, Damien Cook, David Mwale, Kian Kalamatangi, Jacob Host, and Talis Duncan. On the bench is Peter Mamazelis, Liam LeBlanc, Sean Kepi, and Saliva Havili. On the side of the Roosters, in the backs, they have James Tedesco, Fetilega Pauga, Joseph Sawali, Joey Manu, Dominic Young, Luke Keary, and Sandon Smith. In the forwards is Spencer Leniu, Connor Watson, Lindsay Collins, Angus Crichton, Satili Tupanua, and Naufahu White. On the bench is Zach Docker-Clay, Siwa Wong, Della Sale Vea, and Terrell May. This is another pretty simple one for me. I think even with a big miss in Sam Walker, a big miss in Brandon Smith, I think Connor Watson has been an incredible professional this season. And Sandon Smith, I've only seen him obviously a couple times this season, but I think he's a pretty exciting young player. And this is a great opportunity for him now to really step up, be creative with the run game. I think Luke Keary has a decent run game himself, can take on the kicking game as well, so there's no real pressure there. But I think Sandon Smith is the type of player to be completely fine. Another thing I want to point out, actually, when it comes to Connor Watson and Sandon Smith, basically being one of the main reasons why I think they'll be fine. There was a game against the Rabbitohs. I want to say it was round 4. I do believe it was the Rabbitohs, actually. Connor Watson scores a try midway through the second half, and after the try is given, when the Roosters players are all surrounding each other, having a chat, having a water break, you hear Connor Watson say, "Everyone listen to Sandon's voice, he's going to get us around." So for Connor Watson to speak up like that, to give basically, the green light for a young, relatively inexperienced player like Sandon Smith to be the voice for everybody, to move everyone around, and for him to say something like that means that clearly Sandon Smith knows what he's doing to organise a team. And that just shows for me the professionalism and the great teammate that Connor Watson is. So for him to slot in at 9, no complaints for me. And for him to get that Origin experience as well was great. He's an excellent replacement for Brandon Smith. And then Sandon, coming in, clearly knows what he's doing if he's getting that kind of respect from teammates. So for those two to come in, I've got no complaints. And overall, defensively, the Roosters, they'll want to show what they're still capable of. And with the ball as well, they'll want to show what they're still capable of going into finals, so that teams could still potentially fear them, and that losing these two key players is not as big an issue as people think. And with the Rabbitohs, some exciting moments last week, but there's not enough in that team, I don't think. They can have some good moments with, with Jai Gray, Cody Walker, but I don't think there's enough in that team right now to challenge on the attacking side, to be strong enough defensively. I think the Roosters should be completely fine in this game after everything I've said. So I'm going to go with the Roosters to win, 13+. Next up, we have the Dragons taking on the Raiders, starting with the team list of the Dragons. There is a name in here that I'm going to butcher, so I do apologise ahead of time. But in the backs is Tyrell Sloan, Zach Lomax, Moses Suli, Jack Bird, Matthew Fagai. I'm going to assume it's pronounced Lycan King Tagia, I'm not too sure. Please let me know in the comments how to pronounce it, because this is the first time I've heard of him. And Ben Hunt, rounding off the backs. In the forwards is Francis Molo, Jacob Liddle, Jack DeBellin, Luciano Leilua, Jaden Stewart, and Tom Eisenhuth. On the bench is Connor Mulhyson, Toby Couchman, Blake Laurie, and Raymond Faitala Mariner. On the side of the Raiders, in the backs, they have K.O. Weeks, Albert Hopewate, Matthew Timoko, Sebastian Chris, Xavier Savage, Ethan Strange, and Jamal Fogarty. In the forwards is Josh Papali'i, Tom Starling, Joseph Tarpany, Hudson Young, Simi Sasagi, and Morgan Smithies. On the bench is Danny Levy, Corey Horsburgh, Atta Moriata, and Trey Mooney. This one is another slightly simple one for me. I do think that this one could be close given the pressure in this game. The Dragons will really be fighting. We'll get a lot out of Ben Hunt. He'll be playing to a different level given how the Dragons have been over the last couple of seasons, the disappointment that he's been through as a player at this team. I think he'll be all over this one, trying to get heavily involved. The new young lad at number 6 as well. This will be the first time I'll have seen him this season. I don't know if he's played at all yet, but he'll want to make an impression. He really will. And I think Tyrell Sloan, Zach Lomax, they'll have their great moments. They'll pop up when they're needed to as support players. And I think the forwards of the Dragons is always pretty underrated. I think can keep them in the game a lot, especially players like Jaden Stewart. Leilua as well has gone under the radar, and I think Molo and Jack DeBellin can set a good platform for Jacob Liddle to work off the back of. And when Tom Eisenhuth is playing well, strong carries, linking up the play left and right, right to left, I think he's a solid 13. But compare that to the team of the Raiders right now. I think defensively they're strong enough to deal with what the Dragons might offer, and I think they'll be missing Cal Flanagan still, and his run game, his short-range kicking game as well. I think Ethan Strange with his step, he'll open up that Dragons defence. Jamal Fogarty is a very underrated 7, probably underappreciated. Good kicking game, good run game. KO Weeks is starting to look more and more comfortable at number 1. When he took on that role a few sort of weeks to months ago when Jamal Fogarty was just coming back in after his injury. But I think this back line of the Raiders is consistent enough and strong enough to deal with what the Dragons do, and I think Papali'i, Starling, Tarpany, Young, and even Smithies are good enough to compete and possibly even beat the Dragons forward pack. So I think the Raiders should be fine in this one just based on personnel, but I think it'll be a close game given the occasion and the fact that they're fighting for finals, both of these teams. I do think there's enough in this Raiders team to get it done. So I'm going to go with the Raiders to win 1 to 12 points. Next up, we have the Bulldogs taking on the Cowboys, starting with the team list of the Bulldogs. In the backs, they have Connor Tracy, Gerald Skelton, Jacob Kiraz, Stephen Crichton, Josh Adokar, Drew Hutchison, and Toby Sexton. In the forwards is Max King, Reid Marnie, Samuel Hughes, Viliami Kickout, Jacob Preston, and Jamin Salmon. On the bench is Bailey Hayward, Curtis Morin, Harry Hayes, and Josh Curran. On the side of the Cowboys, in the backs, they have Scott Drinkwater, Cal Felt, Valentine Holmes, Viliami Vailea, Maury Talangi, Tom Dearden, and Jake Clifford. In the forwards is Jordan McLean, Reece Robson, Jason Taumalolo, Helam Lukey, Jeremiah Nanai, and Ruben Cotter. On the bench is Sam McIntyre, Thomas McKaylee, Harrison Edwards, and Griffin Neame. So as much as I absolutely love what the Bulldogs have done this season, I don't think they're fully equipped for this game. Now, I do love their defence. I think it's great. It's joint second best defence against the Cowboys' second best attack. The saying normally goes, attack wins games, defence wins championships. That's what they normally say. So I think that probably originated during American football, but that is a comment that's commonly brought up. Attack wins games, defence wins championships. And for me, I think it's the attack that's going to win the game, mainly because their attack will be weaker with having Drew Hutchison in there over Matt Burton. And I think Skelton has done some good stuff this season, but the Bulldogs, when they have their normal back line, that's obviously Connor Tracy at fullback, and then you've got Kiraz on the wing, Adokar on the other wing, and then you've got Crichton and Cherry as your two centres, they feel a little bit more balanced and more solid defensively. I think they'll still have good moments, especially with Crichton and Adokar in there. They'll be strong on that side of the field. But Drew Hutchison, replacing Matt Burton, they won't have that long-range kicking game or that dangerous kicking game that they normally have, and that'll make it easy for the Cowboys, with players like through the middle, like McLean and Taumalolo, even Cotter to set a good platform. Reece Robson will eat up the metres through the middle, and then when they attack the edges, you got Lukey and Nanai, then supported further out wide by Holmes and Vailea. So I think the Cowboys will just eat up the metres, and ultimately that'll be too much for the Bulldogs. I think they'll still put in a valiant defensive effort, but I think right now the attack of the Cowboys will be enough to get the 2 points this round. I would like to see the Bulldogs get this done, but I don't think they could do it this time. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win 1 to 12 points. Next up, we have the Panthers taking on the Titans, starting with the team list of the Panthers. In the backs, they have Dylan Edwards, Sonia Taruva, Isaac Tango, Paul Alamotti, Brian Toto, Brad Schneider, and Jerome Luai. In the forwards is Moses Liotta, Mitch Kenny, James Fisher-Harris, Scott Sorensen, Liam Martin, and Isaiah Yeo. On the bench is Trent Tolau, Lindsay Smith, Liam Henry, and Luke Garner. On the side of the Titans, in the backs they have Keanu Kinney, Alafiana Khan-Pereira, Brian Kelly, Bo Fermor, Jojo Fafita, Jaden Campbell, and Kieran Foran. In the forwards is Moeki Fotuaika, Sam Verrills, Jamin Jolliffe, Chris Randall, Cleese Haas, and Isaac Liu. On the bench is Jacob Alec-Weinke, Aaron Clark, Keenan Palacia, and Arama Howe. Again, I apologise if I butchered that name at the end there, but we move. First time hearing about him. So I do like what the Titans have done this season. There are definitely some exciting moments on the attacking side. I think when they're really clicking, they're really firing, they look incredible. Maybe have missed Tino Fuasumalawi this season. I don't know if he's had that much of an impact being gone, because I actually like what the forwards have done anyway. I think a lot of the guys in the forward pack for the Titans have done an incredible job. To name a few, I think Fotuaika has been fine this season anyway, but players like Cleese Haas, Isaac Liu, especially, Erin Clark, Keenan Palacia, I think they've all done a really, really good job in the forwards. So I don't know if they've missed Tino that much. I think the Panthers will be missing Nathan Cleary more so. And they still have the good moments in there with Dylan Edwards, Brad Schneider with a decent short-range kicking game, Jerome Luai with a good step as well. I think the fact that the Panthers have a solid enough backline to deal with what the Titans will throw at them, I think is more than enough for me. I don't know if the Panthers will put up too many points. I think they'll win fairly comfortably, but I don't see like this really dramatic scoreline or dramatic number of points from the Panthers. I think they'll allow a few from the Titans because they've been off at times defensively. When they've not got their full ensemble available, defensively they lack slightly, but that equates to like maybe 6 to 12 points maximum. So they'll let in a few, I think, and this Titans team, they do know how to create opportunities with the individuals and the quick individuals that they've got, like Campbell and Keanu Kinney, Alfiana Khan-Pereira as well. So the Panthers, for me, the kicking game should be fine. Short-range kicking game, I think, will be excellent. Defensively, they'll be really solid. They still know how to throw the ball around. Alamotti is still relatively inexperienced, but is continuing to grow in this system and is doing a pretty decent job of it as well. And there's just too many individuals in this Panthers team that I think will be able to do their jobs and deal with whatever comes their way. So, for me, the Titans will have their moments. It'll be a respectable effort, but I think the Panthers overall are just too strong. So I'm going to go with the Panthers to win 13+. Next up, we have the Sea Eagles taking on the Sharks, starting with the team list of the Sea Eagles. In the backs, they have Tolu Kula, Clayton Faulalo, Tommy Tallow, Ruben Garrick, Leahy Hapuate, Luke Brooks, and Dali Cherry-Evans. In the forwards is Taniela Paseka, Lachlan Croker, Matt Lodge, Hamal Olakawatu, Carl Lawton, and Jake Trebojevic. On the benches, Ben Trebojevic, Josh Alaye, Ethan Bullimore, and Nathan Brown. On the side of the Sharks, in the backs they have William Kennedy, Sione Katoa, Jesse Ramian, Cale Iro, Ronaldo Mulatalo, Braden Trindle, and Nico Hines. In the forwards is Toby Rudolph, Blake Brayley, Oregon Kafusi, Britton Nakora, Teague Wilton, and Cameron McInnes. On the bench is Daniel Atkinson, Jack Williams, Royce Hunt, and Thomas Hazelton. So the first thing that stands out to me, especially for the Sharks, is that this is like the first time they've had their normal go-to back line for God knows how long. Cale Iro is still relatively inexperienced as well, so you could argue that obviously Talakai might be the centre option, but I think Iro's done a good job this season. So they've got Kennedy, Katoa, Ramian, Iro, Mulatalo, Trindle, and Hines, their go-to back line. So that's one. And then you look at the back line of the Sea Eagles, I think Kula can do a good job at fullback, but is not the same as Tom Trebojevic. Faulalo is possibly going to struggle. He's had some experience this season, I believe. That name sounds familiar, but could be put under a lot of pressure, especially next to another relatively inexperienced player like Tommy Talau at centre. Garrick and Hapuate, I think they'll do a decent job over on the left-hand side. And then Brooks and Cherry-Evans, will probably be fine. DC's kicking game, I think, will make up for a lot of it. But I think the defensive efforts that we'll see from the Sharks will be back to where we expect them to be. On the attacking side as well, I think they'll be a little bit more free-flowing as well. Nico Hines finally back in there with a bit more game time under his belt. Braden Trindle supporting him at number 6. And I think Iro can get back to throwing some more assists to Mulatalo. So I think just based mainly on personnel, I do lean towards the Sharks. I was originally thinking that, because this is a game, both teams are safe for the top 8, that this is now about setting a statement and basically whoever wins this game gives a little bit of fear to the other team that if we meet again in playoffs, we've already had one up on you this season, very, very recently. But I just think given the individuals available, the Sharks have been a little bit down for me over the past few weeks and months. I think they'll want to finish on a real high note, and this is a great opportunity to do that with a few key players out for the Sea Eagles and a few changes to the back line. So I do think the Sharks should be okay, but I like some of the individuals in the Sea Eagles team to make it close, and the Sharks still aren't perfect yet. But I'm going to go with the Sharks to win 1 to 12 points. Finally, we have the Knights taking on the Dolphins, starting with the team list of the Knights. In the backs, they have Kalen Ponga, Fletcher Sharp, Dane Gagai, Bradman Best, Greg Marju, Jack Cogger, and Phoenix Crosland. In the forwards is Daniel Saifiti, Jaden Brayley, Leo Thompson, Tyson Rizell, Dylan Lucas, and Adam Elliott. On the bench is Tyson Gamble, Matt Croker, Jack Hetherington, and Brodie Jones. On the side of the Dolphins, in the backs they have Trey Fuller, Jermaine Asako, Hamiso Tabuai Fidel, Herbie Farnworth, Jack Bostock, Jake Avarillo, and Sean O'Sullivan. In the forwards is Jesse Bromwich, Max Plath, Tavita Pangai Jr., Felice Kafusi, Conley Lemuelu, and Kenneth Bromwich. On the bench is Jeremy Marshall King, Ray Stone, Mark Nichols, and Cody Nikarima. So the key thing for me to start with are the forward packs. I'm just going to say right off the bat, I think these two will compete very well through the middle. I think it'll be a very even fight. I think Bromwich and Pangai Jr. can compete nicely with Saifiti and Leo Thompson. All of them, big lads. I think Brayley and Plath, I think they'll do good jobs at, building up that ruck speed and getting some good meters through the middle. I think some of the key players that they can bring on that are currently on the bench, Tyson Gamble for the Knights, I think having the ability to bring him on, I think is a good sign. You've got that key player on the bench that if you just need to change something a little bit, need a bit of a spark, bit of energy, Tyson Gamble's available. There's one extra man for the Dolphins. You've got Marshall King and you've got Nikorima. Now, the fact that they've gone with Averillo and Sean O'Sullivan again in the halves is interesting, but if things aren't quite going your way, Cody Nikorima is available to kind of shore things up. And you can always take off Fuller, Tambo Fidel back to fullback, Averillo to centre. There's all sorts you can do. With both of these teams, there's a lot of changes you can make. Now, of course, the factor of having Kalen Ponga and Bradman Best in there, I said that they'd be the two most important players last week for the Knights, and they were. They were both incredible. But comparing that, I actually really like how this backline is set up for the Dolphins. I think Trey Fuller, when he's had to fill in for the Hammer, he's looked really good. He's looked really, really good. Jermaine Osako is extremely reliable on the wing. Jack Bostock's been incredible this season. Tabo Fidel at centre, helping to create overlaps. You give him just a little bit of space, like a yard of space, and he is gone. So he's going to go up against Bradman Best, I think, and that's going to be a very interesting one. So we'll see what happens there. Bradman Best is quick, but not Hamiso Tabo Fidel quick. And then Herbie Farmworth, incredible last week, will continue to impress as he has all season. Jake Averillo, what I like about him at 6 is his ability, even as a centre. A lot of centres can switch to 6, but his ability to help create overlaps, quick with his hands, good step, insane speed. So his run game will continue to improve and getting more experience in that 6 role as well. More training this last week as well. And then Sean O'Sullivan, I think, is one of the most underrated 7s in the league. I'd love to have him at my club in Super League. Great kicker. Great long-range kicking game, smart kicking game as well, great short-range kicking game, good run game as well. I think he's all-round fantastic. Such a young player as well and, should be around for a long time. But I think that's a perfect partnership. Jake Averillo's run game, I think, will be excellent. Sean O'Sullivan, just let him control the kicks. And that'll be fine. So I think the way that this Dolphins team is built and set up, just with the attacking prowess that they've got, is going to be enough. The Knights will have to rely on defence, and I don't know if they've got it in them, and they don't score that many points week to week. They've been a little bit better over the last few weeks, but I think it'll be a bit back and forth, but just with the key changes to the Dolphins team and the key players that they could bring on if things aren't going well, that's enough for me. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins to win 1 to 12 points. So to recap my predictions for this round, I'm going to take the Storm 13+, the Eels 1 to 12, Roosters 13+, Raiders and Cowboys 1 to 12, Panthers 13+, and then the Sharks and Dolphins to win by 1 to 12. For winners' confidence, I'm at about 85%. I'm very confident with the Storm, Roosters, Raiders actually, as well as Panthers, Sharks, and Dolphins. I think there's, some weird ones that can go the other way. I think the Tigers could get it done given the implications of not wanting to get the wooden spoon. Bulldogs and Cowboys, maybe I've undervalued the Bulldogs this week. We'll have to see. And I think maybe there's something the Seagulls can do. Maybe, but I do like the personnel available for the Sharks. I think they'll be okay. In terms of margin confidence, 80%. I think Storm should be fine 13+, but I think maybe they'll go a little bit easy on this one because they've already wrapped up the number 1 spot. They should be fine. The Broncos maybe playing with some pride, a bit of aggression, maybe make it a close one. Of course, the Tigers could win and that screws up the margin. I can't see the Roosters actually making it a close game. I think given the personnel, they'll still run away with this one. And the rest, pretty much the same. I'm just confident with the winners. And I can't really imagine that they'd go the other way for the remaining games. But yeah, that's my recap for this round. So that's going to be it for my NRL Round 27 predictions. If you've got your own, please let me know in the comments down below. This is our last time to get an 8 out of 8 this season. But that is going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.